Hi everybody, my name is Stephanie. Welcome to my channel. I'm super excited. This is pretty much my first video ever in regards to YouTube. But I'm doing this because I wanted to share a journey with all of you because about 8 weeks ago, I had a breast reduction surgery. It was an experience, if that's the best word that we can use. And so I want to share that journey with you all and kind of let you know what I went through, what was the reasoning behind the surgery, why I did what I did, and some of the videos that I recorded throughout my recovery, just to kind of let you guys know how it's been. So I'm not saying that my experience is going to be yours, but everybody's experience is different. And I wanted to highlight what I went through because it was not an easy decision and it was not something that took really a lot, thinking, it was for many years and contemplating, but I was happy with the decision that I made. So stay tuned in regards to. So why I did breast reduction. Honestly, I've had large breasts ever since I was like 15, 16 years old, and it's been a struggle. And you can imagine just being a teenager and just looking at your peers, and you're tall because I'm almost 5'9", and I've been tall throughout my whole life, but also just the unnecessary attention and just navigating that as a teenager was a struggle. I definitely did not appear my age, and I was presented by creepy men coming up to me at random ages and just really bothering me, and mostly was because of that, because of the size of my breasts. And I struggled with many issues in my head in regards to it, and just pain wise, and the older I got, the harder that it got. I went through waves of losing weight and being healthy, and I was vegan for many years, and they were still big even though I was like really skinny. Honestly, I was in the military at one point, and yes, they did shrink, but still, for the size that they were and the stature that I was, which was like a stick, it was still a struggle. And it was still a challenge being able to work out, and these things are like in your face and just bothering you and all over, and just an uncomfortable feeling. So it was a struggle. It was a struggle for many, many years. Then when I had my son about 9 years ago, they decided to once again get even bigger than what they were. So it was rough. It was just rough. Just the pain in my shoulders, the pain in my neck area was always stiff. Back pain was horrendous. It was just a lot to take in emotionally and physically, to the point that it was affecting my sleep. It was affecting my way of living, my happiness, my personal relationships. It was too much to take in. So, throughout the years, don't get me wrong, I did physical therapy. I went to chiropractors. I went to acupuncturists. I went to many different doctors, and just, one of the key things was, well, lose weight. But when I lost the weight, it was still there. Like, it was still rough. And so just kind of like advocating for it and really pushing it, and just trying different ways to try to lose the weight, but also to try to just live my life with these breasts, because they were huge. I'll be honest, prior to my surgery, I was a 38 F, close to a G, and 36 G depending on the brand. It's a lot. That's a lot to take in. And so I got approved for the surgery, and it was something that I was excited to do. So this portion of the video, I'm going to talk a little bit about how I got approved for the breast reduction. So again, this is going to be different for everyone because of the fact that it depends on your insurance carrier, your doctor, your own body, your health, everything. So as I mentioned before, I'm a vet, and so I receive my services from the Veterans Administration. And so this, again, was a discussion that I've had for many years with my primary care provider, just talking about just the challenges that I was having and just the whole experience overall, how it's been. And so they did approve it, and they deemed it to be something that was medically necessary, which was great. So like I mentioned, prior to the pandemic, I was scheduled to have the surgery, but literally right before, and I wasn't going to be doing all that while trying to deal with a COVID-19 situation. So last year in September, I went to my primary care provider and I reintroduced the subject again. And it was a new doctor. And, she stated that she was going to put in a referral again for me. And then maybe about 3 weeks later from that, I got a phone call to schedule an appointment. And from there, it just went fast. It was a quick process and it was really fast. I met with the surgeon. At that point, I was already approved. To be honest, I went, there was a lot of documentation from the past couple of years in regards to the neck pains, the shoulder pains, the therapies that I've done physical. I also did evaluations, mental health as well too, because like I said, it affected my emotional health and it affected me mentally. Like there was things that I wouldn't want to do just because, and I couldn't do because they were so big. So going and meeting with the surgeon, I asked questions. Maybe I didn't ask enough questions, to be honest. And then she said, pick a day. And so I was like, well, I need to gauge it around because I have a young son. I said, I need to gauge it around the time that he's not in school because I imagine I'm going to be completely limited. And so I scheduled it for December 22nd. Which, meant that I was going to have a horrible Christmas. And I was prepared that it was going to be like that. Literally 2 days before Christmas Eve, which in the Latino community, that's the day that we celebrate. So I scheduled the surgery for that date. And then, explained to me that I would get a couple of phone calls. I would have to do some pre-op work, essentially get approved for the surgery and just talk about the recovery time. And, this is where it got a little crazy. Because, my doctor was amazing and she is amazing. I'm going to put that out there. She's absolutely amazing, person and very professional, but I let myself, listen to her too much when it came to the recovery time. And I really underestimated how severe and how bad this was going to be. The recovery time stated that it was going to be 2 weeks. It was what she told me, that people start feeling better after 2 weeks. And that was not the case at all, at all. So that's where it gets crazy. And so, this portion, I'll go ahead and start talking a little bit about that, that specific experience. So pre-op stuff is you go into the clinic and, they do a full EKG, they do blood work, COVID test, they do a physical, they review your medical history. For me in the past, I used to have asthma. I haven't had to use an inhaler in probably 3 years now, which is amazing. So there was discussions on bringing that up. They also ask if they need to do any stress tests, anything in particular in regards to depending on your health. So I met with the doctor, he reviewed me. He said, honestly, you're healthy. You're pretty healthy. You're fine. You're clear to do it. And so this appointment was done 5 days before the actual date of the surgery. So it was the 17th of December. And so they give you this wipes that you have to clean yourself the night before with, to avoid any infections or potential infections. And so, they tell you not to eat after midnight or even drink water, anything after midnight the night before. And so, I showered. I was like, let me have a good shower. I enjoyed it. And then I put that, and you can't put deodorant on. You can't wash your hair to put products in it. So it was rough in regards to that. And so I arrived to the VA at 5:30 in the morning to do all the pre-op stuff and get ready. And so, they, again, more tests are run. They tell you to change into specific attire. You have to do the wipes again to clean yourself. And you essentially wait until your doctor gets there because they need to do the markups on you. They need to do the measurements. And so morning of, the doctor was telling me, to pretty much sign that you're going to have surgery and approving that you're going to get the surgery done. And so, she tells me, by the way, we're going to do some lipo. I was just like, oh, okay. And then I said, is that because of that thing that individuals are talking about with doggy ears? And she's like, yeah, just we may have to do it. We want to make sure that it's done the right way. And so we may have to do lipo. And so, in my head, I'm thinking, oh, that's nothing. I guess it's part of the recovery time. That should be fine. So I signed, because what am I going to do? I'm not going to say no. It's literally 45 minutes before my surgery. So I sign, and then we go into the room and she starts doing the markings. She does measurements, and it was something that takes a lot of time, and it should, because, this is how they're going to measure the sizing and everything. She reminded me that based off of my size that, they may have to do some skin grafting, but they're going to try to avoid that as much as possible. And that's if individuals are close to the threshold, which is, I believe, 39 inches from here all the way there. So you imagine where I was. So I was right at that threshold for like one of them more than the other, because no boobs are the same. So then that was it. And then she was like, all right, well, I'll see you downstairs. So I met with the nurse one more time to do some final things. And then I got walked downstairs to the surgery floor. And they told me to go lay down on this bed. And I was just like, okay. And then they were like, oh, you're going to meet with the anesthesiologist. And he was right there. And, he was a very nice doctor. And that's when I got nervous. I started panicking. I think in that moment when he was telling me about the anesthesia and just the whole thing, that it's complete, it's general anesthesia, I started panicking. And, I'm a very religious individual. I'm a very spiritual individual. I believe in God. I believe in a higher power. I believe in the power of prayer. And I just started praying. And, a nurse came that she was going to wheel me into the OR room. And she saw me and she saw how nervous I was. And it was like an angel, she calmed me down and patted my head and, you're okay, God's with you. And, she said her daughter was my age and, God's with you, he's going to be with you. And I said, amen. And, she's wheeling me in and I'm like, do I want to do this? Is it too late to back down? I was like, I don't know, I don't want to do this. I've had like a C-section before surgery, but this is much more intense. So I was nervous. I really was. And so they tell me to go onto the actual operating table. And, I've never, I've been in an OR room again when I had the C-section, but I think it was very different. And so I started panicking. I'm going to be honest. I was panicking. I was really nervous. I was scared. And, I kept thinking about my son. I was like, please God, I have a son. Don't let anything go bad. And, they told me that they were going to intubate me. And, that was my knowledge that I didn't do that research that I was going to be intubated. And, just hearing all that just made me nervous. Hearing the safety nurse, they had a safety nurse to verify what was being done, saying that it was moderate risk. And it was a lot. It was a lot to take in. They strap you down and they tie your hands and to the sides, and you have compression machine on your legs and they're strapping you on your bottom, and you're like, am I going in a gurney because I'm dying, or a psych ward? I don't know. It was a lot to take in. And then I saw my surgeon, my doctor that I've been with, and she smiled. She's like, I'm here, Stephanie. And so just kind of seeing a familiar face, I was like, okay, calm down, she's here. I trust in her work, and I know that she's going to do a great job, and I can tell that she's a perfectionist, and that's what I need. So that was really the whole thing right before the surgery. It was crazy. The surgery was expected to take 3 hours. It actually took 5.5 hours, which was nuts. It's such a surreal feeling, to be put on a mask and then just wake up, and the next moment you wake up, you're in a recovery room. And as soon as I woke up, they were like, oh, hi, Stephanie. And all of a sudden, I'm throwing up like crazy. I feel sick. I mean, I don't know, you're just what's going on? You're trying to understand what's happening, what just occurred. But you're also oh my goodness. And you're is it done? And I'm looking down. I was like, it's done. This is it. What happened? And then I'm throwing up at the same time. So she gives me some medicine. She's like, this is gonna calm your nausea. I still threw up a few times after that, but for the most part, it did calm it down. And she told me, she was like, "Are you in pain?" I was like, "Yes." Like, I was in so much pain. And she told me, "We're going to be giving you some pain medication to take home. But if we continue to give you pain medication here, then you're going to have to stay here longer in recovery. And, if it gets to a certain point, you may have to spend the night." And I'm like, "I'm not spending the night. I'm not doing that." I had every intention to leave this hospital tonight because this was an outpatient. I'm leaving. So I was like, no. So she gives me some ice chips to like calm my stomach. And, because remember, this is already like 4 o'clock in the afternoon and I haven't eaten since the day before at 12. On top of just everything and all the medication and all the things that are going on. So, I can't get up from the bed. 2 people had to help me get dressed, and, they wheelchair me out and they tell me, to pick up my meds with the nurse. I see my mom, who came with me, and my best friend. And, I was really happy to see my mom. My mom told me she was worried because she hadn't received a phone call. She thought the surgery was 3 hours. And it turned out that I was there for like more than 5 hours, which is crazy. And then I saw my doctor on the way heading out, and she told me, "Everything went well, looks great. Do you want to know how much pounds we took out?" And I'm like throwing up, and I was like, "No." She's like, "Okay, we'll talk on Monday," because this was a Wednesday, and she was like, "We'll talk Monday in your appointment." So I was like, "Okay." And, she was like, "It was a success." And I was like, "Oh, thank you so much." And then that was it. And then it was time to go home. And that car ride was intense. It was intense. And, there was so much traffic because New York City has so much traffic. Of course it does. And it was rush hour. But that car ride was intense. The pain and just being uncomfortable, I started crying. Like, it was just everything, like the reality of what happened was hitting me there. And then that was it. So that was the whole process. The day of the surgery, I got home and I kind of went from there.